as a younger woman who has yet to start a family, I'm very interested in this topic. And I think part of what I see as the struggle and where some of the responses or maybe some of the more critical responses came from is this idea that women have kind of, at least I see myself kind of fighting against what has been termed as like the cult of motherhood, that as a woman, your value is in being a mother. And so if you maybe decide that you don't want to have kids, it's like, why aren't you having kids? Why are you valuing your career? There's a lot of pressure, and I think in our larger society that women still have this expectation that they're at some point in their life their job is to have a family. I'm just interested in kind of your thoughts on this idea of celebrating motherhood at the expense of potentially a lot of other achievements that you might have in your life.
Thank you for asking that question, because that's where all of this started, right? I mean, if I look at my mother, my mother is a fabulous artist. She would have been so much happier raising kids if she had been able to work outside the home. I mean, I never had any doubt, and she didn't have any options. And my grandmothers too. My one grandmother would have been an awesome CEO. The other probably would have been an English professor. No chance. Motherhood was all they really had. So I assumed that was what we were fighting against. All my career was that you were fighting against the idea that a woman is defined as a wife, as a daughter, as a mother, as a sister, that she's defined by who she is as an individual and what she has done. And the joy of a profession is just that. It's something you've mastered. It's something that's yours. It's something that you've worked for that is yours independently of who you are relative to others. But I was thinking, but the balance has really gone too far in the other way if we can't now say, but as a woman, I am a mother. I chose to be, but you certainly don't have to choose to be. And as a mother, I am no less a professional and I'm no less ambitious because I decide that this is something I need to do right now. So it's actually helpful to hear you frame that the wheel for younger women may have turned so that they're feeling pressure to be a mother. Then it has to be it absolutely has to be a dual message.
And I think the reality for many boomers is that we're going to have no choice but to have our work life disrupted. And I also have a father who's had dementia for years, so I know what it's like to try to juggle both. And I'm wondering, will the reality of the economic impact in the workplace of elder care be a real driver in promoting flexibility and changing workplace culture?
Yep. No, I'm glad you asked that. I think absolutely. I mean, as I was born in 1958, which is the height of the baby boom. So marketing has just followed along my life. When I was younger, everything was sort of advertising for younger people. And when I started worrying about wrinkles, guess what? You couldn't turn a page without something that talked about that. So we are such a huge market force. And I've been thinking about that both because we as workers are experiencing the decline of our own parents, but also because we want to work longer, but not all the time, and because we have to work longer for economic reasons. I think the demographic wins are very much with more flexible work. But I think the elder care issue is enormous. And again, I think we have to create space for people to say, I both need to be with my parents, but maybe I want to be. I'm acutely aware that I will not have my parents forever, and I want to value that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I left corporate America. I'm a refugee from corporate America. I'm one of the women who couldn't hack it. I started my own business. I have all the flexibility in the world, and yet I still have to make the very painful decision to cut back on my incredibly promising entrepreneurial career, largely because of this cycle of success, because if I'm not on my smartphone all hours of the day as a business owner, I'm not seen as investment worthy. I'm not seen as maybe even client worthy. If I say to my clients, I'm with my kids, at one level they love me because I'm this flexible mom, but that's not what they want. So flexibility alone is not enough. We have to figure out this always on culture, because it's actually making it worse. And I just would love to hear your thoughts on what social media is doing to flexibility.
in my world, it is possible, and I don't have clients, but I do have students and who, pay a lot for the privilege of attending Princeton and being with me. And my justification is always, I will do a much better job for you if you let me, take that long walk, take a good break in the summer. I'm often still working, but not in the way they necessarily want me to be. And I cannot produce as a creative person. I mean, I said my mother's an artist. People hire me for my ideas and energy and other things, and I cannot produce those if I am always responding. And so I tell people, and I've always said this before listening to Leslie, if you are caught up with your email, your priorities are in the wrong place. And I've always meant it as well in the first place, because you look back at the end of your life, am I going to rue the email I didn't answer? No. Am I going to rue that I didn't take that, half hour and read to my kids? Yes. And so I've always thought that that was true. But the second is, who values someone who only responds? Right? I hire people for initiative and for actually launching things themselves and doing their own projects. And in this culture, if we're caught up, if we're always doing that, we are only responding. I said this even before I heard you, but I was taking, but I agree with you that this is something that, an individual who tries to change it, it's not going to work. That's why I use the example of smoking. We have to think about this in terms of basic values. We talk about family values, we don't actually live them, but also in terms of health, in terms of longevity, and in terms of competitiveness, because I really do think, the United States has squeezed productivity to the point there's sort of nothing left, and we're going to have to recalibrate the work-life balance for everybody. But I figured out the slogans and the ways to do it. I'm certainly going to try, and I think there are plenty of people who are working in the same vein.